the Steppin Razor, the art of war. We're there with you on next Thursday. This is the last Thursday in this month, November, which is the 11th month. Then we're going to have December. And December is the time when everybody go out there and, well, apart from America, because today is the biggest holiday in America right now, Thanksgiving Day, the day when them thief the land from the Native Americans and give God thanks to rob the Indian them of them land. We say, give thanks for being here. You know, say, them have a law named Murphy Law, and say whatever going go wrong will go wrong. Believe you me. I'll be at the thing topsy-turvy now because me have to say this the first thing. Me not understand this. I don't know, people hear about the Jamaica for Justice, Jamaicans for Justice organization, headed by Dr. Caroline Gomes. Now listen to this now. This is really interesting. Dr. Caroline Gomes have, over the past week or two, has called for the resignation of the police chief. She has said that he should resign because he cannot control the crime and the escalation of police killing is not tolerable. You understand? Now, on the top it's so now we because Caroline has called for many resignation in her tenure as what them call it, director for the human rights group. But listen to this now. The executive director of the human rights group, Jamaican for Justice, Dr. Caroline Gomes, has resigned. I don't know if I will laugh, I have to just get vexed. She is to take up a new role with the Caribbean vulnerable communities coalition. Now, I don't know if this is a better place to be. I don't know if it was in our schedule to resign from the JFC. Obviously it was. But it was really ironical that as the head of the human rights group calling for the resignation of the head police, she resigned from that group that called for the resignation of the police. So she's a founding member of the Jamaica for Justice group, which was formed in 1999. And its first chairperson, she has served as its executive director for 11 years. Now, that is really something else. That is really something else. She's going on to something else. She should have waited for the commissioner to resign. The commissioner said, him not have no intention of resigning. He might go dead till son burn him. You understand? And that's right there. So, meanwhile, the bloodletting continue in Jamaica. There is a thing that happened in Linstead where it just really mind-boggling. An 80-year-old woman, Marcine Williams, and her 53-year-old son, Morris, was bound, gagged, and stabbed to death at their home in King Street in Linstead, St. Katrine. The bodies were found about 1:20 a.m. when a relative went home and found a grill opened. The relative went upstairs and found the elderly woman and her son covered in blood. They had been stabbed all over their bodies. Now this sounds like a vindictive, revengeful murder because obviously them know the person. They are the people them because there was no sign of break-in. The grill was open. That means that apparently somebody opened the grill and let them in. And given the way the thing go, them gag them and stab them up several times. It sounds like a revengeful killing, man. Like, yeah, it's like a revengeful killing. But it's 80-year-old. I mean, really and truly. You kill her today. Maybe she'd have got dead next week. I mean, you could allow that. I mean, 80-year-old Rasta. Well, I don't know, because I want to tell the leaders of Jamaica, the pot of bubble, you know, is like a pressure cooker going, you know. Believe you me, you know, Jamaica is like a pressure cooker right now. I wonder if the leaders them understand that. Or maybe which part them sit down, it no look no weird to them, you know. Maybe we who they are so and make much ado about nothing. So them just sit down there and them high chair and I say, well, them people just attack, not now really go, I just think I get better. But may I tell you, you know, the leaders, both from the People's National Party and the Jamaica Labour Party, the pot a bubble, the pressure cooker lid, look like it's so fly off. Understand what I say? You have to do something fast, you know. You have to do something fast, because, trust me, outer road not lovely. It not lovely at all. It may look lovely to you because you know over there, so. Whereas it's sitting from where I am sitting, and looking from where I am looking, and listening to what I am hearing, it's not lovely at all. You see some more people at Black Road now than ever before. You can tell a country by the road it keep. You can tell a country by the road them it keep. And you see right now, nobody can tell me nothing. Jamaica have the worst road them. Jamaica have the worst road them. Because there is not one road that I drive on where I did see a pothole there for 10 years ago. We cark up when rain fall. And it dig out, and it cark up, and it dig out, and it cark up. And why is it that one pothole I forget cark up every year, sometimes twice for the year? Right now, me have a hole there where the hole upper Stone Hill there, so. You have to baba weave the hole, and me say, then I when them go cark up this hole here, and then put some mal in it, and boom, rain come, the car them driving at the hole, boof, it dig out again. Me say, why them people are not easy, you know, Rasta? Boom, me see them go so, boom, and put on some tar over it. Me say, alright, boom. Because me don't know so that not going to work neither, you know, but if you say it not going to work, no, it sound like you bad mouth the whole thing. Well, guess what now? The car them a drive upon it, and you can see, say, the tar where them put upon it, I sink more and more and more to become a next hole again. You have a next one right beside that church there. It's the weirdest corner, it's the corner that you have your baba weave around the corner, and boom, them cark up the hole. I mean, I don't know if the hole decides, I mean, I move, you know. The hole just goes up, boom, and just fly in at the corner of the hole, the corner of the road, you know. And at the same looking hole with the same size. Me I say them hole look intelligent, because the same hole when me sitting at the middle of the road. When them cark it up, the hole just shift gone over the other side. So me don't know is where them a do, how them do this thing. The country a bubble. It a bubble, believe you me. Things not going good. I wonder if Miss P understand where I'm going. I wonder if Miss P really understand where I'm going. We want the thing to work, you know. We want the thing to work. As me say all the while, you know, we want to be happy. All you see, all the things we are going around everybody. All the politics and the religion and the this and the that. Jamaican people just want happy. Nothing else. Them just want to be happy. No, so them can't go buy food where them want buy. Them can't dress how them want dress. Them can't go where them want go and come home when them want come home. Them just want to be happy. And if the people them happy, everything all right. But guess what? The majority of people in Jamaica right now not happy. Because every day them get up is something, lick them again. Road want fix them, picnic, this, them hear that. I mean, Prime Ministers and members of Parliament, opposition leaders, and your friends, the people them is not happy. Wanna stop take poll? Go out there. Nobody come take no poll to see who are going to win this election and that the election. Go, they go ask the people them if them happy, if them content. Me not have to go, they go ask, me see it with my eye. You have to be a blind person. Yet still we know, say, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. You would have to be more than, I mean, the thing, them not people, them not happy rasta, you can't happy little. Like all night, Saturday night, Friday night, Sunday night, you get a little happy, you know, you go out and ray, and lay. But you see when the reality lick you when you go home now, and you realize, like, you go read all the newspaper, and you hear it all over the news, and you realize, you're in an area where you hear pure gunshot. And you wonder how near the gunshot is. And every time you look on your road, you see police are come down the road. And you see man a run across the fence, a jump in a gully and all them something there. And you look in a bush, you see your dead cow, and your goat them gone. And the people them have to turn vigilante and take the law in them own hand, because them know say if the thing go to court, the one who the accused will not be punished, and the victim always turn out to be the sufferer forever. Things not lovely. May I tell the policeman this? Listen to me carefully. May I tell Mr. the big boss, Minister of Security, it not sweet, it not nice out there. It not nice out there. The people them a smile because them no want to cry sometime. And the people them a use the music for shadow and shade them vexation and frustration. If it wasn't for the music, hell pop loose. That's how we say it. If it wasn't for the music in Jamaica, hell pop loose. And they've like a cry, bow down in front of God and say, to God, please. Them Jamaican just saw no easy. Them come down a hell with your condition and make me have to come out. The pot a bubble. Jamaican people want to be happy. We want to know so we can wear long fingernail and paint them up as we want, bleach as we want, put on wig as we want, wear relax as we want, smoke with herbs as we want. Is that we want to do? We want to look on the leader them and say, you know, say, me love that leader there. We don't want only the people them who vote for the leader. We want to look on the leader them and say, you know, say, me love that leader there. We don't want only the people them who vote for the leader love the leader. We want the people them who never vote for the leader love the leader too. The opposition, we don't want only people who love and St. Andrew. St. Andrew is loved by his GLP counterparts and friends. You must have people who is neutral out there who don't care about PNP and GLP and say, yeah, you know, say, them people they are going to do some good work. I don't know which part in Jamaica I can go hear people that say, these people is a wonderful set of politicians. Nowhere. Listen to the music. Listen to the music where the youth them are bring out. I hear the frustration in the youth them. Talk to the youth them at the ghetto. Listen to the radio talk show them. You don't have to watch the news. Listen to the radio talk show that you hear the people them cry, man. Oh, they not listen. Only if you listen, man, because it's not lovely out there. And we want it to be sweet. We want it to be sweet. We want to know so we can go to a party and dance till 3, 4 o'clock. And if we walk, go home, we can walk, go home. If we are drive, go home, we can take slow driving. We don't want a gunman, whether in uniform or out of uniform, come draw brakes my way. All them can't understand that. PNP and GLP, you don't know to say the thing no nice out the Rasta. How the oppressed become the oppressor. Once the cry was against the oppressor by the people in power. Now the oppressor has now become part of the system, or the oppressed has become part of the system, and is oppressing the people more than the people them who them was calling out to be was them oppressor. Cause I do remember that a lot of these politicians, when them was young, was bawling out, said them was oppressed by politicians, and them said them going to do something about it, so them go farm them own little thing and go in at the party and say them go change thing. And when them go in at the party, them get gobbled up by the system and become the enemy of the people. And right now, that is where me I look on. Me I seen say the two party them has become the enemy of the people them. And that me I say no. The PNP and the GLP has become enemy of the people. So people, what we are going to do about it? Because the pot a bubble and the food no in the pot is like a pressure cooker without nothing like the water boil out, it will explode. Watch it. The time is 31 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, we're going to start playing a rebroadcast of an interview we did on the cutting edge with a woman by the name of Katrina Brown. She uncovered her ancestors and realized that her ancestors were the largest slave trading family in the United States of America. Very revealing interview. We think that we should play it again so that the Jamaican people can hear something that, trust me, you never hear before. You never hear before. So that we just hear about a survey them do again about ganja again. Why them people just love waste money so Rasta? Them couldn't just come to me and ask me. Because I could have tell them, you know, exactly when them come to a conclusion in the thing, I could have tell them so I saw it going. Them just dance do a poll about the ganja and the medical properties and thing, and the people them say, yeah, why not? You know, I mean, really, you never have to go spend no money to do that. Just come here and just ask me, and we tell you that. You understand? But these surveys have been done for years, a long time them do it. We keep going back to the same thing, you know, like government spend how much thousands of dollars to have a committee on ganja to find out what is it. Them come back months after and say, yes, the decriminalization of ganja is acceptable. Prime Minister, the brother named Bruce Almighty. Bruce Almighty come and him say, why, it's much bigger than that. When people ask him about the decriminalization, he said, it's much bigger than that. We must remember about America and these things. I just think to remember that America come up with that amount when it come out to the decriminalization of ganja. Meanwhile, America was there doing them thing. Now we see it come full circle now. That now it is a part of Parliament now discussing this and discussing that, which is going to go through still. But we are saying, you know what I mean, like, really, why we have to really go through a beat the ass so much? You know, we have to try to reinvent things, and the thing done invented already, all we have to do is just go through it, you understand? Anyway, you know what say, this is a serious thing, you know what say, last year, Mugabe make a statement about Jamaican, said the Jamaican male, all them know if you do is smoke ganja and drink. And people, well, him say more than that, but the gist of it is that him look on the situation and him realize about wait. And this all Jamaican do, and him bust out on them, and everybody has say, yes, government should say something about it, and government should do this, and government should do that, and, well, we see it gone, one of the 9-day thing them, we don't hear nobody take no action against Zimbabwe. You understand? All right. And we also things, you know, we're good at just beg some people, you know. All right. We are a part of the Commonwealth, don't it? England is the head of the Commonwealth nations. Jamaica is a part of the Commonwealth. Me remember the times when we are going to England, we just buy a ticket and go to England. People send for you, them just buy a ticket and say come. Unless you go work, them get work permit. But we just go to England as we want, All right. We're a part of the Commonwealth, you know. And it gets so weird that in the jail them in England, you know, the highest population of any nationality in a jail that is not British is Jamaican. All right. You see, when you go to England, you know, you have some people in England who are Jamaican. You know, say a Jamaican, we all them go on, you know. Yeah, you know, like, it's almost like a manners less. Them not no manners, them not no discipline, them just do what them say them want, do, and I just saw it go. The British government just go do. The British government say, all right, that's all the stay, you're going to know. You say, if you don't want to come in our country, you could have been a part of the Commonwealth a little more. You have to go get a visa to come here, so you know. So England will go so boom and just slap on a visa thing. You have to pay £300 if you want to go to England. And if you don't get the visa, you not get back your £300. Them just thief that. You understand? All right. We see a little island like St. Martin. St. Martin, you know. You can run around early morning. Run around St. Martin in the early morning. All of Jamaica. I see man run more than run St. Martin in Jamaica, yeah. St. Martin don't go say, look here now. You see, when you're Jamaican, you have to have visa to come here, you know. Unless you have an American visa, you have to have a visa to come here, so. All right. We see Jamaican, even at the airport. I mean, we are talking about like now people who go foreign, go buy things and come back. Me remember when we in a airport, Miami airport, you know. When you see the Jamaican people them at the airport, you know, Rasta, the mannerism and the way of them are going in at the airport, you know, it's like, you say, wow, you know. I mean, one does a go on like say them in a market, and then like a airport, them in a. All right, we say, I think I go on now with Trinidad. With Trinidad, Barbados too, most Caribbean island, I decide say, you see them Jamaican there? Well, I mean, I understand them Jamaican people, the rest, how them behave so? How Jamaican behave so? And that them are saying in foreign, how Jamaican behave so? We're going to take a keen look on these people. So we see all of the Caribbean island them, including Cayman Island where we used to control. Remember, say Jamaica used to control Cayman Island, you know. Including Cayman Island. Start to look out for Jamaican, because they must say the Jamaican them indisciplined and unruly and just go on like and this and that. No. What me I say is to say this. You say no care how much influence we have over the world. We give the world a new religion. We have the fastest runner. We have the biggest artists in the world and all them today. You see, indiscipline by one will make it look like is all. And the amount of indiscipline where Jamaican project outside of Jamaica in a certain situation, you know, cause people feel look down upon Jamaica. Me not ask somebody that, you know, me see that. And the news, me read that out there. Many airports, many countries after traveling through. If I wasn't like the idea that Usain Bolt, I just the other day still, but like Bob Marley, you know, if it wasn't the idea of, like, you know, Rastafari, cultural expression and all these things, Jamaica gone to the dogs, you know. And you see how people view you and how you view yourself. So you see when 2 man or 3 man go through and behave a certain way, it's like people get disgusted, you know. People get disgusted and say, watch a man, we can't bother with them Jamaican, you know, Rasta. Why them have to go on so? And I know illusion in the people, their mind, you know. And Jamaican people don't like hear them think about Jamaican people. Just like when Mugabe say, boy, must say, they think Mugabe did attack lie. And a lie Mugabe attacking, you know, the street come from the president. And you say, boy, president of another country, not supposed to say this about another country, you know, but here now. Jamaican, we unruly, you know, Rasta. We indisciplined. And me nah say that the Trinidadian them should have really grant have the problem with the how much 13 them stop, you know. But you see, that is caused by others who did come there and do certain things and behave certain way. That it reflect on we so. You can't judge somebody by a next somebody action, you know. But you see, Jamaica is Jamaica. And it's not one, it's not two, it's not three, it's not four, it's not five. Jamaican people have visa to go to England, which is a part of the British Commonwealth. And they don't realize it. Why is it that the fool people, them fool and not like Jamaica, you know? It's the behaviour and where them have to confront with Jamaican people when them go in a certain place. You understand? You can't see the difference. If you go to Toronto, you see the difference. If you go in a Brooklyn, Bronx, you see the difference. If you go in a East LA, if you go in a San Diego, certain place, you see the difference. You know Jamaican people differently from the other set of people them. And we have a sort of resolve where we get through with things, you know. But you see, a whole heap of rasta, a whole heap of cars, a whole heap of things will happen. You know them say the good have to suffer for the bad? Well, what me I see right now is that good has suffer for bad because of the indiscipline, the lack of, you know, it's like we don't have no, me never know if you call it. Me never know if you call it Rasta. Now we see a problem I go out with Trinidad and Jamaica where people talk about boycott food and boycott food. We should have buy one thing for a long time. We should have passed the Trinidad, made in Trinidad thing and go to our thing made in Jamaica for a long time. Imagine we are import water from Trinidad. How the hell Jamaica import water from Trinidad? The people them, and I not just Trinidad, and I not just Barbados, the whole of the Caribbean resent Jamaica. And them not resent Jamaica because well, right now we don't like Jamaica. I just how them see Jamaica and behave when them come at them country. Me I tell you that. I mean, I take off in Trinidad, I take off to that. You know, see, where we live here and say, at Jamaica we come from. And we don't feel no way to say that at Jamaica we come from. And we as Rasta get the most persecution, even from Jamaican themselves. Who persecute Rasta like Jamaican? A Jamaican persecute Rasta more than anybody else in the world. You understand? So right now, Jamaican people, we have to look into ourselves. We have to look into ourselves. Why is it that these people, who is not uncivilized, is looking at Jamaicans like how them look on it? It's not no fool thing. It's not no fool thing. It's something the Jamaican them is projecting when them leave here and go somewhere else. Why the people them is looking upon Jamaica that way there. And then now when a good citizen got through from Jamaica, it goes fall short upon them. So me have to say this. It's not the first time somebody has a thing about Jamaica. And it's not the first time them do thing to Jamaica. Not only in the Caribbean, but in England, where they make we have to have visa. In Africa, where they make Mugabe talk about Jamaican people this and Jamaican people that. We have to take a stock. We have to take a stock. The people them are not idiot. The people them are not idiot. And if we are put we head like ostrich in the ground and feel like say we are hide. We not hide. People know what them are say. The people them know what them are say. And if you did say it's one country, you could have said, boy, yeah, one country, but so much country, Rasta. So much country, where I say, them are sit down around a table and discriminate against Jamaican especially. For no reason at all. There must be a reason. And we have to check, why is it that Jamaican people bring down so much things for themselves that the good have to suffer for the bad when them left here so. England, visa. St. Martin, visa. This place, visa. We're not supposed to have visa for go a certain place. We're not supposed to have visa for go a certain place. So that way I say, we just say, yeah, look into the thing. Meanwhile, we figure out why 13 people just get stopped so, and go away. And when I say nobody enough to check it out. But then again, we have to do an internal search. We have to do an internal search. What is it that is causing countries to look down on Jamaica in such a way that they must say, well, we don't want a Jamaican come down here, so. Because them go on this and them go on that and go on that and go on that. And if you really look into yourself and look on where certain people go out with them come out of Jamaica, you realize, say, a woolly bite where we are run from, a true them attack. So, I might view that. I don't know about the next man. I might view that. Last week, we did that interview, and this interview was very revealing that we thought that we should bring it on in the day here. is an interview by a woman named Katrina Brown, who uncovered that our ancestors were the largest slave trading family in U.S. history. She documented our roots in the film called Traces of the Trade. Very revealing. So at this moment in time, we want to present this documentary, you know. Well, it's not a documentary, sorry, this interview. We can call it a documentary to be, put your tape on cock if you still use tape. If not, put your computer that you can record it. Nobody don't call me and ask me how they can get it. Me I tell you how to get it right now. You understand? Tape it, CD it up, rip it, whatsoever you want to do with it. But don't call me 3 o'clock in the morning and ask me, Muta, you said that tape you play with the interview. Me I beg you a copy it, you know, all right. So we have on the line here, lady by the name of Katrina Brown.
Hello?
Yes, good night.
Oh, right away you're bringing me into the wonderful, beautiful world of your language, because good night would be as if you were saying goodbye, not hello.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, no, good night. Good night means goodbye some places. Okay.
Yes.
I'll try to be as eloquent as possible to facilitate your language barrier.
Yes. Okay. Let's assume I'm the ineloquent one.
All right. Is this the first time you're going to do an interview by a Jamaican about Jamaica? I mean, from Jamaica?
It is. So it's a real honor. Thank you for having me.
Are you familiar with Jamaica? Have you ever been to Jamaica?
I've never been, but I'm like many people all over the world. I've been privileged to be connected to Jamaica through its music. So, like for many of us, we feel connected in that way. And of course, having learned history, it changed my whole relationship with reggae and whatnot. Paying more attention to the lyrics and the connection to the history of slavery and so on.
Yeah, I was so taken into your interview with Amy on Democracy Now! That I actually wanted you to fly you down here in the studio. I told my producer that we should get you down here physically.
Wow.
Anyway, I hope
maybe we'll make plans for the future in terms of showing the film in Jamaica. Well,
I would love to see that. You know, I mean, if it's not on YouTube already, I would love to get an original copy of it. You know, Traces of the Trade. This was shown on PBS.
Yes.
How long ago it was shown on PBS? Because I just heard about it since I was listening to Democracy Now! How long ago?
Yeah, so the film came out in 2008. And we had a national broadcast in the United States on public television on PBS. And that year, as you may know, was the 200th anniversary of the abolition of the slave trade in the United States. And so, sadly, there wasn't as much attention brought to that by, by be it the government or various leaders. So there was sort of a small cohort of people who were trying to bring it to national attention. The fact that it was the 200th anniversary and that it was therefore a powerful opportunity to educate more Americans about the history of the slave trade and the role of the North of the United States in the slave trade, because most Americans don't know about that. So I had been inspired by what had happened in England in 2007, which of course was their what they called bicentenary of the abolition of the British slave trade, and that had been a catalyst for quite a lot of organizing and events and education and exhibits and all of that, some of which were powerful and wonderful, some of which met with some criticism, but in any case, they definitely got on the national radar screen more than happened in the U.S. in 2008.
Okay, all right. All right, what I want to ask you, are you Irish or Jewish?
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's a loaded question. I don't know if I have any Irish ancestors. In terms of the DeWolf, so my ancestors who were slave traders, their name was DeWolf, and we don't know for sure where they came from before they showed up in
Rhode Island?
The Caribbean. Well, before Rhode Island, the very first one that we know of there's sort of a story of him being in, totally forgetting, in Guadeloupe.
Okay.
But we don't know how he got to Guadeloupe. And one theory is that they were Dutch, that the name De Wolf was Dutch.
Yes.
And in the Netherlands, it's the name De Wolf is often associated with Jewish Dutch families.
Okay.
And so it's possible that the De Wolfs were Jewish, but by the time they show up in Rhode Island, they're not Jewish. But because of anti-Semitism, people often hid their Judaism. So I actually don't know if they were Jewish or not Jewish, but they, during their period of participating in the slave trade, and ever since then they've been Protestant and mostly Episcopalian.
Okay, all right. So let me ask you now, the first thing, your relatives, after going through your ancestry and bringing this to their attention, how did they look on you after doing this?
It was a whole range of reactions. So I had a number of relatives, including my parents, who were very supportive, and some were supportive up close, and some were supportive from a distance, and then there were others who were very nervous about it and clearly, worried about sharing publicly this family history.
Yeah.
And then there were a few who were really upset and angry, and most of them didn't tell me directly. It would be, I'd hear through the grapevine about people being upset or angry. And mostly they didn't have the courage to tell me directly, but one or two did tell me directly. But it was really, all different reactions. And I think a lot of it, when there was a negative reaction, a lot of it was fear more than anything else. So no one was trying to deny what happened.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you have to take us through now the journey of trying to unravel and unveil your ancestry to the point where now you found out that, wow, these were slave traders. Take us through the journey of how did you go about tracing that ancestry and ending at the point where you found out that they were some of the biggest slave traders in America?
Well, it was initially brought to my attention by my grandmother, and she was 88 years old, and she was, thinking about whether her grandchildren knew all that they should know about their family history, and so she wrote a little short booklet, 15 pages or something with our family history in it, and she was really primarily focused on things that she was proud of and that she thought we should be proud of, but she, for her credit, she put in a few sentences about the slave trade, which many people would have not put it in at all. So she put it in, and when I got it in the mail, I was 28 years old, and I was in seminary studying religion and ethics and spirituality, and the, shock of it, you can probably imagine the feeling that I had upon reading this booklet. And what was then even more shocking was that within a few moments of reading it, and literally when I read it, I felt like I was finding out for the first time, right? But then within a few moments, I realized with this very sinking feeling, I thought to myself, oh my God, I already know this, but I've buried it. Like, I know it and I don't know it. So it literally was just a very strange sensation of as if I had completely repressed such that it seemed like I didn't know, but I realized that I did know. So as I began to delve more into it, I realized that actually was a very potent, micro version of the much larger pattern of amnesia in the northern United States, where there's been this conscious forgetting or unconscious forgetting or something, where we just blame slavery on the South and we think we were the heroic abolitionists, but really the economy as a whole was much more guilty of participating in slavery than the minority of people who were abolitionists. All
right. So let me put it in perspective for the people in Jamaica. Most of the times when we hear about slavery, it's morely from the south of America. But now, if people know where Rhode Island is, it's little above like New York City, right? It's above New York.
It's above, yep. It's I guess like New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania are considered the mid-Atlantic. And then when you get above New York, then Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, those are all considered New England.
Yes.
And both the mid-Atlantic and New England, so all of that together is considered Vermont, New Hampshire, those are all considered New England.
Yes.
And both the mid-Atlantic and New England, so all of that together is considered the North because it's north of the Mason-Dixon line during the Civil War. The North, really, so I'm so curious to hear about how it's conveyed in your history books, because in our history books in school, it's what, as you said, it's conveyed as if the South was responsible for slavery, and the North were the heroes who went south.
Where the slaves were running to. It sounds like the slaves were running to the North from the South. Right. Yes. All right. Right. Well, I must tell you that we don't get nothing like that in our history books about America and slavery and all these things. We have to go and find it out for ourselves, right? All right. So so in realizing that, wow, this thing is serious. This is not a southern thing. This is like a northeastern thing in America. Rhode Island, where like New England. This is supposed to be the New England. You know, this is not.
That tells you a lot right there.
Yeah, this is not like Mississippi. You know, this is not Mississippi. This is New England, and for you to now trace your ancestry and found out that slavery was live. As a matter of fact, it was the biggest port for slaves in America. How did you come to that? How did you find out that?
So it was an interesting moment because I found this out about my family right at the same time, the same year that a scholar named Joanne Mellish published a book about New England's amnesia about its complicity in slavery. So she was looking really at how that memory had been constructed and the forgetting had taken place. And then that sent me from one book to another, and the scholars like W.B. Du Bois had written, in the early 1900s, had written about the northern role in the slave trade. So it's not that it wasn't known, but it was more often known by, for example, black scholars than white scholars.
STEPPIN RAZOR, the art of war. We're conducting an interview with a lady named Katrina Brown. We reached a point in the interview where we were coming to an understanding, which I did not know or take it into any consideration, that when we hear about slavery in America, it really come from the south side of America, not knowing that in the north and the east coast, slavery was alive and well. As a matter of fact, in New England, that was where slavery was really in effect, not necessarily in Mississippi and Alabama and Miami, Florida and all these places, but right up there in New England. So we'll continue.
But then when historians in the 1990s and maybe the late 80s started digging into it, it became more known in academic circles, but not by the general public. And it was a wonderful kind of coinciding of different things. So at the same time as I decided to make a documentary and started working on it, you had, for example, the New York Historical Society in New York City put on an exhibit about slavery in New York City. And, it was a subject that many museums and historical societies had been afraid to put before the public. But lo and behold, the New York Historical Society got the biggest crowds they had ever gotten for any exhibit when they put on this exhibit about New York and slavery. So it showed that the public is ready to deal with it, even when the gatekeepers think the public isn't ready to deal with it. And just to, if it's helpful, I can share with your listeners that the way it worked basically was that there was slavery in the North, just like the South, for over 200 years. But the fact that northern states, one by one, abolished slavery earlier than when it was abolished in the South by federal, by an amendment to the Constitution after the Civil War. So the fact that it ended earlier in the North by, anywhere from like 50 to 60 years, 70 in some cases, meant that the North could sort of write the history books as if they were the good guys.
Yes.
And then sort of conveniently forget that they had slavery for 200 years, and conveniently forget that they had the slave trade and that they dominated the slave trade. So the fact that the North had this maritime economy, and they didn't have as much arable land, so you couldn't really develop the large-scale plantations in the North that you could develop in the South, but you could develop the maritime economy of trade. So it was northern ships, and particularly Rhode Island ships, that really dominated the trade, in human beings, from New England to then West Africa, and then people were sold at auction, as you can imagine, throughout the Caribbean and throughout the southern United States.
All right, explain.
And so that economy, the economy of it was really influencing the whole growth of the New England and the national economy.
So you're actually saying that New England economy was based upon slave trade?
It's said, it's like what they don't teach you in school, at least not in my schools, and in so many schools in the U.S., is to really look at how everything is interconnected. So, I think I was raised to think of slavery as this kind of separate thing, like this separate evil thing over there, separate from everything and from where my people were from. But when you come to really understand the economy of it, you realize, for example, you take Bristol, Rhode Island, where my ancestors were based. So, okay, they were slave traders, they owned the ships, but there were sailors working on the ships, there was the food that was brought on the ships, there were the people who made the sails, the people who built the ships, the people who insured the ships, the bankers, and next thing you know, you have this whole web of complicity. So it's not, so someone could say, well, I'm an onion farmer, but an onion farmer's onions might have been brought onto a slave ship to prevent scurvy, as a disease on the ship. So you find this whole web that really, as I, once I made the film and have been able to screen it all over the place, you see how people are suddenly looking in a new way at their town, their city, their state, in Connecticut and Rhode Island, all that, when realizing how it really built the economy in a complex way.
REFM, thought-provoking, always smoking, lyrics like a bazooka. You are listening to Muta Baruka.
All right. You talk about Rhode Island and your family. Can you give us is there any visible residue of this slavery that is present now in Rhode Island and New England? Can you go to Rhode Island now and see companies or organizations that is part of that? Not only your family, but other aspect of Rhode Island system that we can say this was why, this is because of slavery, why this is here.
Right. Well, one of the most striking examples is Brown University. And Brown University, which is one of the most, one of the more accomplished, prominent universities in the country, the Brown brothers were slave traders.
Were they your family? Were they your family?
No, no. So my last name is Brown, but it has an E on the end.
Okay.
Interestingly, it's actually more common in the Caribbean because I think it's in English. Brown with an E.
Yes.
But the Brown University is a different Brown. But my ancestors, the DeWolfs, they actually, one of them apprenticed with John Brown. And so it was, it was a small state, and they were all pretty interconnected. And so the Brown brothers were slave traders, and some of the profits from their slave trading went into the founding of Brown University. And I don't know if this would have made the news in Jamaica, but when Brown University hired their first African-American president at the university, Ruth Simmons, she took the very courageous step of appointing a commission to study that history of slavery and the founding of the university, and that led to a report that got a lot of national press coverage and attention because it was the first Ivy League university to really acknowledge and apologize for the role of slavery in the funding and the founding of the university. And there have been so many ripple effects from that of other universities looking into it and just generating a lot of kind of soul-searching, as it were.
But we are told that also Harvard University, Princeton University, and a lot of these universities is part of that residue of slavery.
Yeah, and it's very tied to the Caribbean because you had, for example, with Harvard, the Royal family, Isaac Royal, some of the, I think, I'm not going to remember all the details, but some of the proceeds from either a sale of a plantation or the profits from a plantation or the sale of enslaved individuals, somehow his profits went into, major donations to Harvard and to Harvard Law School specifically. So this is, you heard me on Amy Goodman's show, Democracy Now!, and that was, that show was because of the book just published by Stephen Wilder about the money and the ties of those universities in the early days to the economy of slavery.
All right, back to your family. Your family from Rhode Island, and you said now that they were part of that. What were they doing at the time in terms of their involvement? Did they have ships going to and fro from Africa? Were they part of the economical base who were helping the slave trade economy in Rhode Island? What were the part they were playing in that, your family?
Well, the striking thing that leads to their being designated by one scholar as basically the largest slave trading family in U.S. history, largest in the sense that they collectively brought more Africans to the Americas than any other U.S. family. And as you can imagine, that was incredibly upsetting when I found that out, because my grandmother did not know that, and no one in my family that I knew had known that. It was something that I discovered in a scholarly book about the Rhode Island slave trade, where the scholar had added up, really just had done all the hard research to trace all the slave ships that he could that had left Rhode Island and the numbers of people that were brought back. And basically the DeWolfs were involved for 3 generations, and so that's why they get that terribly distressing status as being the most...
so is there an estimate of the amount of slaves that your family brought to Rhode Island? Is there an estimate that you could say that they brought?
It would be, from his book, it's over 10,000.
10,000?
And they over 10,000 people, so it's a horrible, horrible large number. And they were not brought, they were primarily not brought to Rhode Island. They were primarily brought to Cuba and to South Carolina. So, and also to other countries in the Caribbean. So I don't, I have actually no way of knowing for sure all of the countries in the Caribbean that they would have brought, that they would have, brought people to auction, to sell at auction. But Cuba was their most frequent destination.
Katrina, all right, we'll ask you a personal question here now. Given what you know now, and all that you have experienced in America in terms of blacks rising up against European domination, against white supremacy and all these things, how do you view the whole of this episode, especially coming in the 60s when we had a upsurge of black liberation movements and these things? How do you feel now, given what you know now, about those organizations and those groups that it would appear was really adamant against Europeans and, as we would say, white people?
Yeah, well, it's so I could talk for hours about this. It's a huge question.
Well, I want you to talk for hours. You have a whole heap of hours, you know. You can't talk for hours, you know.
Say that again?
I am giving you the permission to talk for hours.
Yeah.
So I would really like to know how a white woman, after experiencing her parents' involvement in this atrocity and knowing what black people was saying and the aggression and the aggressiveness against white supremacy, how a white woman now feel about that?
Yeah.
What you know now.
Well, one of the things that really struck me as I kind of looked inside of myself as I grappled with this was I started with the most intense, guilt was the strongest emotion, and because I had buried and repressed this fact about my family, because I think I probably found out when I was a teenager, and then I buried it because it was too painful. So I think I carried a lot of guilt from my teenage years onward. And so when in my late 20s I found this out again and began looking at it more directly, I reflected on the fact that when I was a kid, when I encountered injustice, it made me angry, and it made me sad, and it made me just angry and sad, basically. When I came to understand my personal, like my rate, like when I kind of, you know how you get older and you kind of you start to understand the world more. So when I noticed I'm white, or what people call white, and other people are what people call black, and other people are, when I started noticing those differences, and when I started to become aware of the fact that my family was upper middle class, then instead of feeling angry and sad about injustice, I started to feel defensive and guilty. And something really interesting is that as I've uncovered this and faced it more, I've actually shifted back more towards anger and sadness rather than guilt and defensiveness, because now I've come to get, in a sense, a little more rational and realize I'm not the person who did it, so I don't have to feel guilty as if I were responsible, but I do have to feel responsible for how I've benefited, and as part of that taking responsibility, I have the utmost respect, and I just feel I empathize massively, so I'm always going, oh my God, so when forgiveness comes from Black Americans, for example, I think to myself, oh my God, that is so spiritually advanced. I would just be angry all the time if I were Black, So it's been natural for me to look at the history, as you said, of Black liberation movements and anti-racism efforts, and both, through from the period of slavery all the way up to today, and have a sense of not only respect but of desire to be an ally in these efforts, so desire to make whatever contribution I can to repairing the damage that was so just extreme and unconscionable.
All right. I know you must have heard about reparation and the need for reparation from the colonial masters, from the slave masters. We in Jamaica have an issue where on freeing the slaves, the slave masters who own the plantations were given £20 million to compensate them for lost revenue from the slave trade. But there was nothing given to the slaves themselves. So what is happening now? There is a need for reparations from these colonial masters. How Katrina view this idea of reparation, especially knowing that her family might have to be part of that compensation that is supposed to be paid, whether cash or kind, to the Black people who has gone through this atrocity?
Well, you'll be interested for sure to see the film, because we go into that in the film, because it would have been conspicuously absent if we hadn't raised that question. And I should say, I haven't said that the way the film is organized, as it were, is that I wrote to family members, to about 200 family members who I had addresses for, and most of whom I didn't know, but I was able to get contact information. I wrote to about 200 people and invited them to come with me to retrace the triangle trade on camera, and 9 people signed up to come with me. So there were 10 of us that went from Rhode Island to Cuba. And so it became very important to all of us to talk about reparations, because we were not only committed to learning about the history and really facing the history and going to the places where this atrocity took place that our family participated in, but to also say, all right, what about it? What about today? What are the legacies of slavery? What are the legacies of slavery, not just for black people, but for white people, for us specifically? And what does it mean? What can be done, and the issue of reparations had just kind of resurfaced in the United States because of Randall Robinson's leadership, and the book The Debt had just come out, and Charles Ogletree and others were organizing to push for reparations in the United States. So when you see the film, you'll see that we actually interview Charles Ogletree, and we go and speak and meet with people directly in order to face these questions. So how do you possibly repay that? Well, you can't repay it completely. And as soon as we started delving into it, we started hearing so many different opinions from so many different black people. So it got confusing for us really quickly, because you had some people saying, we don't want money, we want people to, we want structural, we don't want, some people would say, it's about individual payments to individual descendants. Other people would say it's not about payments to individuals. It's about collective government action at a massive level in terms of providing the kind of support for social programs that will make a difference, yes. Education that will make a difference,
infrastructure, something else.
Yeah, and then other people saying it's important at the deepest level to face this on a soul level, and on an emotional level, and on a kind of consciousness level. And how do you repair that? How do you rebuild the fabric of our broken relations and the harm that's been done in the psyche, in a sense, for all of us? Those who are descendants of those who were enslaved, and those who are descendants of enslavers, and those who came afterwards. And, there are just so many, I don't have to tell you, I know there's so many repercussions throughout all of our societies.
You are listening to Muta Baruka.
Hi, this is your Minister of Youth and Culture, Lisa Hanno. For this Youth Month, reset the thing. Do you have the courage to do things differently? I do. The time by the Minister of Youth and Culture is?
Yeah, the time is 9 minutes to 4 o'clock. You're on the STEPPIN RAZOR, the art of war. There with you. Okay, so Katrina Brown is relating that aspect of it by a question about reparations. And we feel, that part of it is very important to address, given what is taking place now, and given that people, families who were part of that atrocity is still alive today and is also still benefiting. Here she mentioned universities that is still benefiting or had benefited from slavery. And you will hear her even go further than just universities. Because we keep talking about Liverpool in England. And we say that a lot of the infrastructure and businesses that is successful in Liverpool in England came off the backs of slavery. We know that a lot of the universities in America, the money that was first used to start these universities came from the slave trade. This is no argument, no, this is not no speculation we are talking about this or now. So, for those of you who feel that we was talking out of bubbles, here's something from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Yes, Steppin Razor, the Art of War. We're talking to Katrina Brown about different aspects of our family involvement in slavery. And we reach a part of reparation and how she connects reparation in terms of family involvement. She mentioned the movie that she made, and it addresses that situation of reparation in the movie. So we continue.
All right, so let me ask your next personal question now. What do you think is the best possible way that this can be repaired? When it comes on to reparation, what you think is the best possible way?
I would say coming at it from all angles, and I would say what I've really become a student of and a believer in is the fact that there is so much emotional resistance among white Americans, I'll say, and I think this probably applies to Europeans as well. There's so much emotional defensiveness that so I'll speak in terms of like, for in a sense, for like, I would never presume to speak for like, how does the repair need to happen within black communities. For me, it's a focus on how does repair need to happen in white communities in order for us to be allies to racial justice. So what I notice in myself and in the travels that I've done with the film over the last 5 years and the kind of hundreds and hundreds of people I've spoken to is that the defensiveness and the resistance is so deep, and it's so actually understandable from the point of view of just human psychology, that until you get through that defensiveness, it's almost like we can't figure anything else out. So even if I believe, as I do, that there has to be kind of systemic economic solutions, and that for example, the fact that I know it's been recently announced that CARICOM and the 14 Caribbean countries, including Jamaica, are going to be suing England, France, and the Netherlands, even though I think that economic argument should be made through a lawsuit like that, I think the resistance to that, and I have shown the film in a number of European countries, so I know that there's the same kind of resistance among the Dutch, among the French, Spanish, among the British, that resistance makes it hard for people to even have an economic conversation, because the reaction is, that was a long time ago, I didn't do it, don't blame me, my life is hard right now too, and there's so much resistance that it's hard to even begin the economic conversation. So what I think in my heart of hearts has to happen is for us to have the kind of education and dialogue that then makes it possible to talk about systemic, structural, economic issues where when white folks change their hearts about this, then suddenly, this is one of the things I say in the film, is I say, once I really started to face this history, it felt natural. It became natural to want to make things right. Once you face it and you get past your defensiveness, you become a human again. And when you're a human again, heart to heart, then you want the world to be a fair and just place. So that's a sort of long answer for a radio show, but it's
no, it's not a long answer. I'm listening, and it seems as if it's a very hard-filled answer. It's not just a long answer. It sounds like a hard-filled answer coming from an American white lady who has recognized the past that our family has played. But in relationship to companies, as we say, like you just mentioned, Brown University, and we know of companies that is still present who facilitated these movements of people across the ocean, and also help to build up their business structure from this atrocity, and they are still present. I don't know how much of them you know in America there, but there's quite a lot of them in America who's coming from that past.
They have a similar dynamic, because they say it wasn't us, but in the case of corporations, you have the predecessor. So, for example, banks, like my family was part of what eventually became forget if it was called the Bank of Rhode Island, or but there was, one bank gets swallowed up by another bank, gets swallowed up by another bank, and if you follow the line, it eventually leads to Bank of America today. So you have probably, I don't know, so Bank of America today, you could imagine if you were, one of the senior executives at Bank of America, you're a human being, you're sitting there in your corporate office and you're thinking, it wasn't me, it wasn't us today. But you have to acknowledge when you look at the legal structure of companies that, in a sense, an institution, I'm not going to say this right because I don't have legal training, but institutions, in a sense, inherit the responsibilities of their predecessors, arguably more than individuals do. I think legally I think that's true. So even the U.S. government, it persists as an institution through time, and it does bear responsibility for earlier, deeds or misdeeds of the government.
Well, that man that sits in the corporate high-rise building, who is exempting yourself from history, don't mean that history didn't happen. Because you're ignorant of history, it don't mean that the history did not happen. And if your company historically was built from that atrocity, it means that what you are doing now is part of that build-up from that atrocity. So, if a man rob a bank and give you the money, and then your family pass on the money to a next person for hide and the next person for hide, if the police come and catch you with the money, I'm going to say you're accessory to the robbery. No matter how far the money line goes, if him trace the money into Cayman Island, the person who have the money in Cayman Island is guilty. He might be 10 chain, 20 chain down the food chain of how did he get the money, but he's guilty of having unlawful money. It's just that. Yeah. So the idea of I wasn't involved, I don't really hold that as something that one could say exempt themselves from it. Right. You have to have an understanding that history does not absolve you from history if you are ignorant of that history. It's just...
Right, and there's a funny dynamic that happens frequently here, which is that people want to remember the history that they're proud of. They want to own that, and they're constantly looking to the past. So there's the way we revere our founding fathers and
even before
the history that's the proud history. But as soon as it's shameful history, we want to distance ourselves from the history. But I often want to say to people, well, if you're distancing yourself from history, then I guess you're going to have to distance yourself from the parts of our history that we like to show the world.
That you like to show the world.
Yeah.
That part of history that you show the world. All right. So this, as you said, this document was made in 2007. That's what you said? 2008?
It came out, it took 9 years. It took me 9 years to make it with the many other people that were involved in making it, and it came out in 2008.
All right. Have you ever showed this? Has it ever been shown to any member of the government, Congress, Senate, whatsoever, just to make them see that this is a real thing? Have you ever showed it to any of them?
It's an interesting question because we actually just this past year in I forget what month it was. We had a screening that was sponsored by an organization that does work with members of Congress. I live in Washington, D.C. at the moment, so I got connected with a group called the Faith in Politics Institute that does some remarkable work with members of Congress around issues of spirituality and politics and ethics, and particularly around issues of race and civil rights. And so they organized a screening of the film, and as you can imagine, I was very excited and eager to see what members of Congress would come. And to my and their great disappointment, only 2 members of Congress came, and one of them was a co-host of the event. So only one person came who wasn't a co-host, and there was a few staff members, but we were very disappointed by the turnout. So we have not shown it in great numbers, but we have tried, and the conversation is beginning with some people in some European countries about how to show it to government leaders in Europe as well.
Well, if I wasn't an inquisitive person, I would never have known about it. I guess maybe you have Jamaicans know about it, but I know that a lot of the listeners here, both here and abroad, because right now this interview is beamed all over the world, live. And I know that, yes, live.
Hello, everybody.
There's a lot of people who's listening now, and I know that they would love to get one of those DVDs. I don't know how could we acquire. Well, I know you have my own personal. It's on your desk. But for those who would like one of these DVDs to actually see your work, how could they get one?
So we allow me to mention one thing before I forget, which is that we were part of a traveling Caribbean film festival that's organized out of Cuba. So I don't know if any of your listeners would have seen the film at any of our screenings. And I don't think it was shown in Jamaica, but I'm not positive. It might have been.
No, it's not shown in Jamaica.
But in any case, it's available through our website, which is tracesofthetrade.org. And it's important for me to let people know that we're not, we sell the film, but not for the sake of making profit. It just feeds the educational work that we do. So it's not a for-profit effort, but just keeping ourselves able to do some educational work and outreach is part of what that supports. And just to be very technical for a moment, we have the English version of the film. Obviously, we also have a version with Spanish subtitles, if that's relevant to any of your listeners. Yeah. And we also have it in PAL. So I'm not sure what DVD format is used in Jamaica.
Just like America. We usually see on DVD like America.
So you do NTSC. Yeah. We have NTSC, which is the American.
We are an American colony here. We are an American colony. So we do what the Americans do.
Oh, golly. Yeah. So tracesofthetrade.org, and we'd, of course, be happy to communicate with anyone about possible screenings. And we have a nonprofit that grew out of the film called the Tracing Center on Histories and Legacies of Slavery.
Yes.
And the Tracing Center does programming particularly focused in the U.S., and I'm increasingly now also doing stuff in other countries.
REFM. Thought-provoking, always smoking, lyrics like a bazooka. You are listening to Muta Baruka.
Let me ask you something. What your immediate family at the moment, are they part of this trust to make the people aware of this family connection, or just you alone that decide to take the world on your shoulder? Are you Mrs. Atlas?
I wish. You'll have to ask me about my posture these days, which is very bad. So there were the 10 of us that were, there were the 10 of us that went on the journey, and then about 40 people came to a gathering when we came back from our time in Ghana and Cuba. We were met by another 30 relatives who wanted to participate in the dialogue and really dealing with this. And then, as you can guess, it's just kind of rippled out from there. So I don't know what the numbers would be at this point, but, I have hundreds of cousins because this happened 7 generations ago. And a lot of them have become incredibly supportive now that they've seen the film and seen what we're trying to do. And of the 10 of us, it's had a remarkable impact, and many family members are fully engaged in addressing these issues now. So my cousin, James Perry, is the executive director of our nonprofit, the Tracing Center, so it's full-time for him. My cousin, Tom DeWolf, wrote a book about our journey, and he's full-time. And then a subsequent book with a black woman named Sharon Morgan. And so the two of them are now speaking and organizing around these issues. and other cousins are, in other careers, but do work on racial justice through their careers. Another cousin, Dane Perry, and his wife, who she's African American, and the two of them are traveling constantly, showing the film, particularly with religious congregations.
Yes.
So it's really inspired a number of us to just continue tackling as much as we can of this.
So when Katrine is not doing that, what is she doing? What do you do in Washington?
Oh my goodness! Well, truth be told, right now I'm on a hiatus from all this because I've been doing so much public work over the last 15 years that I'm taking time out. So I'm actually focused on creating a home and renovating a house and being in private life for a while, which is a big departure for me. So it's nice to be talking to you, and I've been focused on totally other things for the last few months.
You have children? You have children?
I don't have children, no. Okay. I don't have children. And I joke sometimes that it took 9 years to make the film, which was a very long pregnancy, and the film is my baby.
Yeah, I know a lot of lady that does documentaries who she dedicates her life to just making documentaries, and she did one of the biggest documentaries I know, Life and Death. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I was going to bring that up. I saw that film. It had a big impact on me.
Yeah. Well, you're speaking to the person who conceived the name for that documentary.
Really?
Yeah, the theme song in it, Life and Death. It is the person who is speaking to know that did that song in the movie.
Wow.
Yes.
Well,
her name is Steppin Black.
I thank you for that, because that film had a real impact on me, and I was just remembering it before getting on the show with you today, because the conversations with Prime Minister Michael Manley and the role of the IMF and the World Bank, and
her name is Stephanie Black that did that movie. A similar person like you, very interested in trying to find out all of these things that white people have been doing over the years and getting away with it. And she take it from a political perspective with the IMF. You are now taking it from a slavery perspective. But the difference now is that you family are actually part of that atrocity. I mean, it's amazing that you decide that you take up this as a venture about your family. Part of my inspiration, it's become sort of a growing, I wouldn't call it a huge movement, but it's a growing movement of people who are sort of reckoning at a very personal level. And your listeners might be interested to know, maybe it's time for an international expansion of a network that's called Coming to the Table, that formed, about, I think it started about when I was starting the film also, so, about 10 years ago or so. And Coming to the Table is a network of people who are descendants of enslaved people and descendants of enslavers, both slave owners and slave traders. And it's a very personal approach to facing the history. So you have what the term that's often used is linked descendants. Yes. So, it's a little different for me since my ancestors were slave traders. It's much more of an anonymous thing to buy and sell people anonymously. But as you can imagine, for Southern plantation families, they forced their last names onto the people that they enslaved. So today you have people who share the same last name, white and black, who are connected back to the same plantations and to this horrible fact that some of their ancestors owned the other's ancestors. And people are now starting to talk to each other across that chasm, and often they're related to each other because of rape and whatnot. So I was just going to ask you if you have in your tracing ancestry, have you met upon any intermingling with slaves and your family where you now have what we call now multiracial people that is part of your family?
I assume that there must be many. I must have many cousins in Cuba because the DeWolfs. I never even fully answered your question about what they did, but they actually also, in addition to owning ships, they owned plantations in Cuba.
Yes.
So they had sugar and coffee plantations about five. I forget if it's 5 or 6 plantations in different parts of Cuba, and so certainly there would be people there, but because of the U.S. embargo with Cuba, we were able to go there for filming, but it hasn't been, it's not a case where we can easily go there or easily communicate with people there. So I look forward to the day when that might change. In the U.S., they owned a few people in Rhode Island, and there is one man named John Woods who I and my family members have had the pleasure to get to know, and he's probably a descendant of. We know he's a descendant. He knows he's a descendant of people. My family members have had the pleasure to get to know, and he's probably a descendant of. We know he's a descendant. He knows he's a descendant of people enslaved by the DeWolfs, and in his family, there's been very light skin.
Yeah.
So he knows he's. He knows there's been some mixing there, but it's hard to tell exactly how or when, or if it was with the DeWolfs or if it was with other white or native people. So,
but all right. How did? All right. You are from your family's from Rhode Island. How the connection with Cuba, the involvement of Cuba and the plantations in Cuba, given that they are from Rhode Island?
Yeah.
How did they end up in a Spanish-speaking country?
I actually don't know how it first started because there were so many. Obviously, there were so many. Excuse me, I'm starting to get hoarse. There were so many ports in different Caribbean countries that were slave trading ports. So I think, and like I said, the DeWolfs were involved for 3 generations, so it kind of evolved over 3 generations.
3 generations, okay.
And at a certain point in the second generation is when they began to buy land in Cuba. And if I remember correctly, there was a period when the Spanish sort of opened up the island for non-Spaniards to buy land, but then, and that didn't last for a long time, but there was a period, so I think the DeWolfs bought land at that time, and they were very much, it's a whole other chapter, which is that the slave trade was outlawed island, and then it was also outlawed federally in the United States in 1808, and despite that, the DeWolfs kept. They were determined to continue, so they continued through various means to do it illegally. And part of how they did it illegally was through their connections in Cuba. So because the slave trade was still legal in Spain, under the Spanish law, they basically, with their buddies, in the Spanish planter aristocracy and whatnot, they managed to evade the U.S. laws. So they would do, this is literally, and a friend of mine said to me early on, she said, "Oh, you come from an organized crime family." She really kind of caught me by surprise with that comment, but it's true. It was organized crime. So they, for example, would sell their ships to friends of theirs who were Spanish in Cuba for, $1, and that would enable them to raise the Spanish flag on their ship, and they would then conduct the trade under the Spanish flag, and then they would buy back their ship at the appropriate moment. So they, made all these arrangements.
That sounds like political intrigue on the high seas.
Yes, yes, and I think there was actually a kind of because the Spanish were so late to abolish slavery.
Yes.
I think Cuba actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Cuba actually was sort of, it became that much more of a haven for U.S. trade, for basically that type of criminal activity.
Yes.
And Rhode Island had a sort of outlaw part of its identity as well, and just sort of in the culture of the state.
Well, part of the legacy of that is Guantanamo Bay, you know what I mean, really. You know? Anyway, you know, say we want to give thanks for your time, you know, say, I know that it's about 12:30 in your part of Washington, D.C., and we don't want it to get more hoarse, but we would really,
thank you.
We appreciate you coming on to do this, because, you know, it was very intriguing to me to listen to you in just 5 minutes of hearing what you were saying. I said, no, we have to get you more than 5 minutes. So we really want to give thanks for you being here. And as we said, we want to tell the people that Traces of the Trade, a story from the deep north by Katrina Brown, is available. It's a documentary about the slave trading ancestors, our slave trading ancestors from Rhode Island, the hidden history of New England's complicity in slavery and questions of repair and reconciliation today. So we want to know that she is part of that repairing that is supposed to be taking place. We say give thanks, Katrina, and, you know, we hope to meet one day. Yes.
I hope so too.
Yes, we will meet.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to talk to you, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. Give thanks, Mama. Give thanks.
REFM.
Yes.
Thought-provoking. Always smoking. Lyrics like a bazooka. You are listening to Muta Baruka.
Art of War. We're there with you. Very reflecting interview. Very revealing. Hope all the people them who is involved with the reparation thing was listening, because I think it is very important what that lady was saying in relationship to even people who's alive now. You know, she mentioned something about companies up to now, like the Bank of America, and most white people say, why them never did involve in that and thing. But, you know, last night we played a tape with a next white guy named, what's name again? Oh gosh, man. Tim Wise. And he was saying that the idea of you not being involved with it when the atrocity is still in effect, it is not a very balanced idea. And he was saying that white people is very scared to really mention things that don't big them up in history, like the 4th of July and even Thanksgiving. And a whole lot of people don't know Thanksgiving Day, which is today, is the time when the people them from Europe came into America, called themselves pilgrims, searching for land, saw the people them, the indigenous people them there called Native Americans, kill some of them, move some of them, and take them land, and thank God for give them the land. So God has now blessed them with this land named Americas. And people feel good about it, so them kill turkey. Millions of turkey will die, or have died today, or yesterday, to facilitate this atrocity that was done to the Native Americans. Did you know that Manhattan, that little island that is connected by bridges, one of the most, what we call, most commercial islands in the world, Manhattan was sold for $23. $23. I have never seen a family of Native Americans in Manhattan, even on Fifth Avenue. As a matter of fact, I see more Jamaican on walk Broadway between 30th and 24th Street, even to 14th Street, than any other of the we call indigenous people. Whether you're black or you're white, you're trespassing on the red man land, because the man who owns the land is caught up on a reservation in the deepest part of the Arizona, California desert, cooped up there. And we see that some of them escape and set themselves up in what we call casinos. And then we say some of them is in Canada,
the biggest suicide rate in America is amongst Native Americans. It's a terrible thing. Terrible, terrible thing. And they would ever talk about the people, indigenous people of Australia yet. We don't talk about them people there yet. Stepping razor. You know, we just sit down here to reflect on the lies that have been told to the people. And the thing with the preacher, them, I mean, politicians tell lie, but the preacher lie easy to get away with, because a years the preacher tell lie, but the difference between the preacher lie and the politician lie is that the preacher promise you good living when you're dead. So no matter what you tell him, him say no one know the hour of the Lord. So you sit down and watch and pray, and when your mother dead, your granny dead, you dead, everybody dead, you still watch and pray, you know, see it. So him absolve himself from all things. Because I'm telling you, say, look here, is when you're dead, your reward is in heaven. You understand? So all you have to do is sit down and watch and pray. The politician, on the other hand, no, very stupid. He might promise you things when him get voting in the 5 years when him dead, and him knows him can't deal with it. So the people them get caught in a quagmire of lies. The preacher promise you good living, or the politician promise you good living when you're alive, and the preacher promise you good living when you're dead. And the people them stand up there and watch and a pray and a vote. And up to today, things now get better for them. Yes, Steppin Razor, I tell you. Okay, all right. We done make a comment a while ago about the voice. You know that voice thing where Tessan Depan and Christina Aguilera, a very blonde hair, very American white lady. After listening to Tessan one time, she said, well, you know, what she liked Tessan and everything, but she would have did love to hear more of her Jamaican-ness coming out of her. This is something where people shun normally, you know, especially in places like where we see them now. But this woman, big American artist, as one of the judges saying, yes, like Tessan, but he would have loved. Would have loved hear a little more of the Jamaican-ness come out there. The next week, our coach listened to Christina and Giara tune, no doubt, with some Jamaican style. I think that tune that was done with Lady Sa, you know, if I'm not mistaken, it was done with she and Lady Sa, with no doubt and Lady Sa. Boom, you see when she come out with it, boom, and match down the place. The power of the Jamaican language must not be decried because some of us refuse to accept that Jamaican people is bilingual. We speak two different languages, and we must not be ashamed. Because to me no feel no way if one of our prime minister them would have up on the world stage and have a translator, and he just talk normal Jamaican language and make somebody stand up beside her and translate it in English. I don't feel no way about that. I mean, no feel no way. I don't feel say because you talk Jamaican language, you're uneducated. The uneducated part of it coming is when you try talk English language and the Jamaican language come tripping, then you realize you sound fool. So you sound fool because you have some people who have tried talk English and then the Jamaican language just tripping upon them. And you realize that, no, what kind of fool brother that? A fool woman that. And you have that go on with politicians, you have that go on with big people in high places. Sometimes them have this way of speaking and then them end up go right back into the Jamaican talk, and then it realize it sounds strange, it sounds weird, because the two things connect a certain way. There's nothing wrong if the Prime Minister travel with a translator, because most foreign politicians travel with them translators. So when the Frenchman Prime Minister talk, him have a translator, a translate. Me there a certain country and me sit down and I talk to a group of people and them have a translator stand up beside me, I talk, translate everything what me I say. So when people are telling you say, yeah, but you see, when you're talking to a foreign group of people, you have a whole foreign group of people you talk to and understand one thing where you say when you talk English. You have certain places in the world you go to, you talk English, you don't understand one thing where you say, you have to get translator. So not no wrong if you get translator for translate our Jamaican language. Because it sounds sweet out there. Especially some of them nice, beautiful words where you hear them a lock you up for. Because it refers to woman, something for woman. Because it never have nothing to do with woman, them wouldn't say it bad word. As some little insecure man ball out and say, no, we can't say that another word bad. But here we know. You see them word there are some sweet word. When you lick them out there, when you lick them out there, man, sure, I tell you about the sweetest thing, man. The sweetest time we ever have. At one time we have performed in our Finland. And we had the musician and I said, why me say we alone inside us, so a Jamaican and black people. I mean, I remember when I step on the stage, me hear a man turn at the back and ball out one of the beautiful Jamaican words. Me I tell you, say, man, there's a nearly crack up on the stage. Because we have said, no Jamaican up here, so, but, yeah, man, we can't share mind. We can't share mind. Miss Ludy don't tell you that already, too, you know. Miss Ludy don't tell you that already. Because most of the words, them, as you hear the version that say, most of the words, them were in English language, and not really English language, other words, them draw from Latin, French, German, and all these things, Anglo-Saxon words, them draw from. So, yeah, man. Yeah, man. So, the lady upon the voice, Christina, say, yeah, we want to hear a little more Jamaican out of Tessan. And so said, so done. And she boomed the place. We love that. STEPPIN RAZOR. Yes. We're upon the last lap. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Hail up, Jarastafari, you know.
I see.
Praises Imperial Majesty Empire, the last side first. Yeah. As I talk about the slavery thing, they have an industry in Jamaica named the private security industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a private slavery industry.
Mm-hmm.
As to how me see the thing are going, you know, because we have, for a small island like Jamaica, we have over 250 odd security company on here.
Yeah.
Saying, and none of them, majority of them, none of them now adhere to the laws of the land as it respect to how them treat them workers. You know, and the government know this, and them now do nothing about it. You know.
Like, for instance, what them I do, where you think them should address? Where the government should address? What them I do, where you think the government?
Well, the government pass laws, certain labor laws, where them pass and lay down, and if them company and not adhere to it, what the people are going to do?
Yeah, but may I ask you, what in the security industry where you say, tell me some of the things them that the security people them do where is totally against the workers' benefit.
All right, for instance, the labor laws of Jamaica say is a 40-hour work week, especially related to security guards.
Yes.
It's a 40-hour work week. Yes. Anything over that supposed to be overtime. If you get time and a half PM.
Well,
and them not pay that.
Oh, them not play that.
No, them
so
not
pay that. Where the workers them do about that?
Well, basically,
them no unionize.
No, we not a union.
Okay.
So it's like, as I said, Willie Lynch system, most of the owner operator them are work under.
Yeah, but the worker them for rise up and stop work under the man and work over him. And that me I say no, the workers them don't sit down there and accept that. Them just afraid they're gonna lose them. You're afraid you're gonna lose your work.
That's it all boiled down to right, you know, cause me's a man me a lick out over the years and thing, and a whole heap of work me lose, you know.
All right, so if we're in slavery and we're afraid to rebel, what is the purpose of arguing then? We just go and feel comfortable in slavery then?
I don't know. If the government know all of this, you know, and the government
don't know about it. So who make representation to the government for the security guards? Anybody make representation to the government?
Well, you have a minimum wage advisory commission, you know.
Yeah.
Where every year them go around and solicit it. Yeah.
So none of the workers them.
Yeah, I represent security guard at this this thing over for the last 10 years now.
And
I point out them things towards to these people, and it's like
nothing.
At deaf ears me I talk to.
Yeah.
You know.
So what is the next step?
Well, the next step, you know, is just mob rock, you know. It's a mob rock chanting and I depend, you know.
When you say chanting, what you mean now? You got to sit down in your house and read psalms?
And
read psalms?
I dip on the street.
Yeah.
And I chant, you know. That's what I say. Yeah, the minimum wage advice a consultation done from September.
Yes.
And now we are look on December.
Yes.
And the minister not come out and say nothing at all, no.
Yeah.
Who
are the minister?
Increase the minimum wage.
Who are the minister?
Not Derek Keller, man.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like you can't see them man there. It's like him invisible.
Yes,
you know.
Yeah.
So,
right.
you know.
Well, I hope some of them are listening here where you say.
Yeah, man, them must listen. And this thing, you know, I want to know, say, the great big America, United States of America, does not have a language.
Yeah.
But I just want the people to know that.
Yeah.
The great America does not have a language.
Yeah.
English in itself is not a language. If you listen to what Miss Lua said from long time.
You're the brethren just talk about some words where the English thief from other languages.
English is not a language. English is an idiom.
Yes. Okay.
You know. So the people have to know all of them things, you know. And just give thanks for the work we are doing. And more and Chad, if Chad listen, Chad forget a big bonus, you know, because your program are the only program we have so much advertisement.
But I tell you, the advertisement play, I forget what we done before the advertisement.
I tell you.
We have to go back to our next subject. And when we start talking about the next subject, we realize what other that be that time.
Chad forget a big bonus for the Wonder Man.
All right, sir. Give thanks.
Bless up Muta. Give thanks.
All right, yes. So, yesterday our boat capsized with 100 Asian. I think them said 30 of them drowned. This is a thing we are going continuously. We see some Africans left the shores of Africa the other day and try enter into Europe. 100 of them dead on a boat. The Asian them has always been trying to reach to America through boat. The Cuban them also have always been trying to reach to America on them boat. The Asian them right now is in a serious crisis. Meanwhile, the leaders, so-called Carrigo leaders, them not recognize how important and significant this is, that them should have take up this cause of the Asian people as it relates to these racist people in a Dominican Republic. Considering it is one landmass with two different speaking people. It's a weird thing. It's like St. Martin with two different countries. Hey, why? I tell you, European no easy, Rasta, believe you me. Imagine a little country like St. Martin. One side are French, one side are Dutch. Just a little island. The two people, them decide them are going to run a race. And who run the fastest and get the most of the land. Just like how the American people, them, the white people, them go to America and run race. Who could have run race and stick flag in the land where them want them get a piece of land there. Ignoring the indigenous people upon the land. Same thing with Columbus, him do the same thing. But really and truly right now, we're in a serious crisis when it comes on to the Asian thing. And me don't know who are going to take a stand. The people, them take a stand already, you know. It's up to the leaders, them now. It's up to the leaders, them, because it's the leaders, them can make the difference right now. Because when we talk already. What else can we do now? What else can we do? Because we have lobbied the leaders in the Caribbean to say, look here, do something about this thing here. It's terrible. So, we're going to ask permission to play when I'm tune them. And this is to the Asian people them in Jamaica and all over the place who know, say, when we make that tune here, when America invaded Haiti, we make this tune here. Believe you me. And it's still relevant to this day. So, as we have said, permission to play this tune. It was in the 90s we write this poem because we recognize the indifference that is trusted on the Asian people by many people, even Jamaican too. Even Jamaican. Because when natural disasters like Haiti, you hear say actually people are voodoo people. Jamaican people have this arrogance, we say, because a hurricane passed Jamaica and go lick Cuba, yet them say Jamaica is blessed. Well, I don't know, Jamaica is blessed. And so much people are murdered, so much people, and people are going at 80-year-old woman house and tie her up and stab her up with her son. And picnic, woman a chop off them picnic head and I throw them in a pit toilet and all these things. And we say Jamaica is blessed because no natural disaster, no liquid to make we ball out yet. Yet, me say. So, 80, crisis. And it, when I reflect on this poem, I say, yeah, but it come like the poem still reverberate on the level of consciousness that poetry is supposed to carry itself and lend itself.